Okie dokie. Howdy, folks. My name is Eric, and today we are going to be looking at some of these issues on Gitea. I was doing a stream yesterday where I was kind of just picking a few of these at random and taking a look at things of interest, and I want to continue doing that today. There are, as we can see, 55 open issues here compared to 46 closed. Not too bad a ratio, but still, there are a lot of open issues here. Many of these are probably things that should just be closed, what is this? Create a space for brushless motor. I don't know what that's talking about. I made that 8 months ago. So a lot of these should probably just be closed for cleanup, but basically this is going to be like a refinement of some of these existing issues. Before I jump into all of that, a few notes on the stream stuff itself. First of all, the last time that I streamed, or yesterday that is, at this time of day, I was saying that I had the chat visible on the screen, that it would update as the video went on, and it is doing that. Yes, it's doing that now, and it did it in the previous video, but I actually had the window that was being shared in the background. It was hidden beneath OBS, and since it was effectively minimized, Firefox stopped updating in the background, and chat messages were coming in that were not showing up on the screen. And since I was only looking at OBS, I didn't see those and didn't notice until after the stream that messages came in. So this time I have the chat visible on my screen. So hopefully that is the solution there. And I believe that is all that I had to mention about that. Cool. So let's take a look at a few of these issues. So the Apache pod crashing, this is one that we created yesterday on stream. Hello, Competent Pizza. Owncast really does come up with great names. I'm refining some tickets. Market news at mastodon.social. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. I'm going to check to see if my Mastodon has noticed that this stream exists yet. I like to boost it myself. Indeed, it has. So we'll see my own face appear in the corner in just a second. There I am. Isn't that a cool feature of the Fediverse? Anyway, so yes, this Apache pod, it crashes when certain events happen. So it seemed, I noticed last night when I was trying to stream Super Tux Cart with This Nurse Kills that the Apache pod was crashing. It entered into one of these moments of crashing, seemingly when Owncast was trying to update it about the stream occurring. So not a lot of information to go on there, and I still don't know exactly what I would do. One thing that I can point out, I will show the Bitnami chart. This is the Helm chart that I used to deploy Mastodon on my network. And here are the values. And if we go down to the Apache section right here, in all of the other pods, we can see that, like, well, maybe not Elasticsearch. If we go to web, let me just do resources. Resources preset. So this is something with Bitnami Helm charts where they are going to define a set of resources that will apply to a service or a pod running in Kubernetes. So in this case, it's saying small. If we go over to the charts, we can see our common. And which one is it? Resources. So here, by default, it's saying to use this, which is requesting 500 megahertz, I think, of CPU bandwidth and 512 megabytes of RAM, and then this ephemeral storage stuff. And it also sets limits. And so for several of the pods that are running for Mastodon, we have I could pull it up and show you, but we won't bother. Several of the pods are using this resource preset. If we go back here, we can see it's in, this is web. sidekick, init job, migrate and create admin, etc. So point being, these pods in this Bitnami chart have some resources that it are saying like you have access to this or you are limited to this, but that doesn't seem to be the case for this Apache pod. If we go to Apache again, there is no resources preset in this section of the values.yaml. So I don't know, maybe if I put it in, it will allow me to do that, but as it is right now, I don't really know how to solve this. So we're going to just put that on the shelf for now. Now let's see. See if we can find something interesting here. This is pretty neat. So a few things about this one. This one was originally created over here by FutureRay, and it was to add an online world map to the Luanti server, the Mindtest server. And there seems to be an example here and even the code for doing it. I'll probably do this in season 3 if I get to it, so this is not on the immediate horizon, but I do like the oh, that's right, I moved it. So it was originally created as an issue in this Ansible role EOM, but I prefer it to be over in the Ansible role Luanti, so I just basically moved it over here, and this is following our milestone. So when I originally started season 2 of Luanti, I created this Gitea milestone, which is supposed to organize tasks within that season. There are 2 open issues. Let's see, automate the configuration. Yeah, did a bunch of stuff for setting this up. I haven't really used this milestone too much. This sort of thing is a lot more useful when you have multiple people working on a project. By and large, it's just me doing stuff over here and just creating issues as notes for things. So I am finding that creating projects and using these milestones is, for my purposes, a little bit superfluous, but I would like to use them more in the future if other people were using this as well, but we'll see. I'd have something to clear my throat this time, which is unusual, but it's tea, so. Lemmy. Lemmy is pretty interesting. So this is a Fediverse thing, similar to Mastodon and Owncast in the sense, well, both that it's self-hosted and also that it's using the ActivityPub protocol. And what's interesting about this is it's basically like Reddit. Like, let's go to lemmy.world. This is the main server that they have. And it's a link aggregator. I'm not going to really bother too much exploring the memes here. Most of these, I think, are memes and politics, as usual on this kind of website. But I've thought it would be kind of interesting to use this for a few different things. Very specific in my case. So there are a lot of overlap between these kinds of services. Like, when would you post something to Mastodon as opposed to Lemmy as opposed to Discourse? And so running the services myself, I kind of define when I want to use them, but you know, different people use them in different ways. Like, you could use Lemmy as a forum, and then you don't really need Discourse if you're using that, but Discourse has features that Lemmy does not. So it's kind of an interesting balancing act between the software. But anyway, I digress. So I would be interested in using this to host discussions about external links. So my Discourse server, which, by the way, yesterday's impromptu meeting I put in the demos thread, which I think should just be renamed to an agenda thread. That way I can do, you know, planning things, these kind of refinement sessions. Tech@tagpush.app. Thank you very much for sharing the stream. But anyway, yeah, I think I need to rename this to agenda. That way it could include demos, it can include this kind of refinement, it can include whatever I need it to. But anyway, we are getting way off topic here. So, throw it back. Lemmy. Yeah, I'm thinking of using Lemmy specifically as a link aggregator for, in my case, what comes to mind is ArchiveX, which is Cornell University's free and open academic publication library. So, you know, we can come in here, we can find recent articles on, well, we don't want the statistics. We want the actual articles. Let's look at the new. So these are academic publications, in case you're not familiar with ArchiveX. We can get the PDF of very recent academic research. And this is pretty cool. And they publish an RSS feed. So if we go to the category for astrophysics here, and, well, I think if we, it might be hidden under my head. It is not. Somewhere around here, there is an RSS feed that you can use to get updates from these different categories in whatever format you like, be it an email client or whatever program you write. And in my case, I would be interested in creating an automation for a self-hosted Lemmy community that would basically just copy the link to each ArchiveX article to create a space for discussion about said article, because as we can see here on this website, there does not appear to be such a space. I suppose related papers would be used for this, because typically you would write a paper of your own and then cite this one in the bibliography as a way of responding to this paper, but that's very slow publication pipeline. So anyway, so Lemmy is a kind of interesting issue. I don't know that I have anything specifically to say about this, except that I now have the capacity for it since I've added that R720 server to my Kubernetes cluster. So it seems that this one is doable, whereas, you know, like a month ago, it was not. Let me make sure the chat is updating. I do believe it is. And again, I post these videos in the discourse thread, and if a particular issue that I'm highlighting here, I'm kind of just going over these for my own purposes to remind myself of what I've written here and to clean up this backlog a bit. But if you, the viewer, see anything that you find interesting and would like to know more about and see more videos about, feel free to let me know, and I can do that. Let's continue along here. This is kind of an interesting one. So I have a third PowerEdge server. So the T640 is what runs the main Kubernetes cluster. The R720 is the one that I added to increase my compute capacity. And this one, the R350, is a bit of a smaller one that I originally got basically due to a poor understanding of Kubernetes. I was running a bare metal cluster, so this was originally the control plane, and the T640 was originally the only worker, and those two full servers made up my entire Kubernetes cluster and my entire network. And I later realized that it was a better idea to use virtual machines on the servers and configure those into the cluster. So I put all of those virtual machines on the T640, and the R350 it was kind of just sitting on the side, mainly because it only had 8 gigabytes of RAM. So I purchased more RAM for it with the intention of, let's see, migrating the control plane of my Kubernetes cluster over to the R350. But actually, let me grab the reference here because I'm going to need it in a second. But when I added 64 gigabytes of RAM to the R350, it's not booting. For some reason, the ENC startup boot screen tells me that the RAM is misconfigured. I don't know. Now, the problem is that this happened I don't know when this happened because it's been sitting on the shelf for quite a while. And I don't know if adding more RAM, if those particular RAM sticks are not good, or what exactly the issue is. So this one is blocking the other one. And I don't remember if the keyword blocks works. So let's see. No, it doesn't. So let's look that up. Hmm. Okay, so the default keywords are close, closes, closed, fix, fixes, etc. It doesn't look like there is a depends on by default, at least, but it seems it supports customized. This isn't something I'm going to do, at least immediately. So I'm going to go ahead and say that that doesn't actually work the way I thought. And let me close that. This one, we should add a dependency of the other one. What's going on there? There it is. Wait, where'd it go? That's kind of acting bizarre. I don't want to add that. This is kind of not doing what I want. There. Boy, that was tedious. Anyway, so basically what I need to do is figure out this RAM situation before I can migrate the alpha control plane to this new server. So that is why I wanted to add that dependency. that was a little bit more work than it needed to be, and I think it was a little more work than it usually is for me. So I don't know. Maybe there was just some background issue that I didn't see. Anyway. Dex. Dex is another thing I've been thinking about deploying. Dex is for OpenID Connect, OIDC, or single sign-on. A lot of the services that I use allow you to create an account by signing in with Google, and I figured that would just be the easiest way for most people to get an account on my services without having to manage a entirely new account on a new platform, which would be kind of annoying if you ask me. But anyway, Dex is something that I wanted because it would allow me to be my own OpenID provider. So at the moment, all of my services are OpenID clients. They will go out to Google and check that whoever is trying to log in has a Google account. But no third-party services can reach back to my server and log someone into their platform via mine. And I could do that with Dex. It's not the most useful thing for me to do, specifically because I'm really the only person who would ever use it. I would just be logging in with my own accounts, and I just use sign in with Google, the same way I ask people to do on my platform. So not really the most useful thing in the world, except because of this one. The Matrix Authentication Service, which I should read carefully because I'm not sure exactly what this issue is saying. But the point being, for Matrix, I have enabled Matrix Authentication Service, and I have enabled OpenID Connect with Matrix Authentication Service. So same thing applies on my Matrix server. If you do not already have a Matrix account, then you can single sign on with Google to mine to get one. Not that I'm really the best provider for you. You know, the matrix.org is probably the best provider, but it's an option if you want it. And yes, as it says here, Matrix Authentication Service, Synapse does not support Matrix Authentication Service authentication while also using LDAP. So in the background, I have an LDAP server that I use to define my user account and admin user accounts, other people who have an eom.dev email, accounts that I control that exist on my platform. I define those with LDAP, and Matrix Authentication Service can connect to OIDC or LDAP, but not both. That's an unfortunate limitation. So at the moment, I have to use Google to sign into my own platform, which is not what I want. So yes, this is, by deploying Dex, I would be able to say that Matrix Authentication Service, so let me back up a step. Dex, I could use LDAP as a backend for that's users. So when you're trying to use my Dex instance to connect, OpenID connect to whatever you're doing, Dex can be using my LDAP server in the background to verify user accounts, and then I can tell Matrix Authentication Service that it can use sign in with Google or sign in with Dex. And that would allow me to sign into my own Matrix server with my own LDAP account. So this seems like now that I'm explaining it out loud, this is an extraordinarily low priority. It affects only me, and I don't need it that badly. It's kind of just a convenience thing for me. It's not even that convenient. It's more so that I have defined my own account as opposed to having to go through Google to log into my own stuff. This isn't really that useful. If I had more people that I was defining in this LDAP server, which I'm kind of open to doing depending on why I would want to do that, I don't really know. I would consider this would be a higher priority if it affected more people. So not likely to work on that one anytime soon, but Dex is an interesting platform. Anything self-hosted is fun for me. Let's see. That doesn't seem like good advice. So secrets.yaml refers to a Ansible vault. Ansible allows you to, well, it allows you to create a file that is encrypted in which you can store key value pairs in a YAML format, and then it allows you to retrieve those values from the vault when you are executing a playbook so that you can securely store sensitive data that you need when executing your playbooks. And it's in a file called secrets.yaml. This issue makes no sense. So you do not want to store your secrets.yaml in a repository. You don't want to do that. That is a security concern. So this is bad advice. And then adding it to the git ignore, that would mean that there was no point in having moved it to the repo. So once you've added it to the git ignore, it's not going to be pushed up to the remote server, which is the source of truth. So this issue just makes no sense. And so I think I am just going to delete it. Yeah. I'll close it. That one was easy. Okay. And what's this? Is this one already done? Okay, so a few things. I'm no longer using the small hack repo for my matrix deployment. I am using the matrix stack Helm chart, which is the official Element HQ Helm chart. I prefer to use the official version of things when it's available. The small hack one was pretty good, and actually small hack also has a Helm chart for Lemmy, which I might end up using because Lemmy does not have an official Helm chart. So I might end up going back to small hack in the long run, but I am no longer using the small hack repo. Yeah, I'm going to leave this open because it is still relevant in that I would need to reconfigure Matrix Authentication Service to use DEX if and when I deploy DEX. So I'm probably not going to do that anytime soon. All right, page 2. Oh, the Prometheus configuration. I need to update that in a few different ways. Let me see here. So we are no longer in this milestone. So I should probably delete it. I was trying to do something in the past where I would create a milestone for the quarters of the year and put any tickets that I worked on in that milestone. But again, as the only person working on something, it can be more than a quarter before I come back to a project. So this method doesn't really work when it's just me. But let me see. What is this saying? Yeah, so can I find the reference? Basically, what I want to say here is that having added that R720 server, This one. This is actually quite old. This is not the relevant issue. This is from a previous time. I think I need to find the pull request. This one. And I want to copy the reference. Basically saying that pull request yes. So having completed this pull request, adding that new PowerEdge server, which had multiple virtual machines on it, I need to add those virtual machines to my Prometheus configuration so that they'll show up in Grafana. I'll even show you that. Primarily, I use this for the node exporter. Here you can see it's looking at the PowerEdge T640, but all of these metrics are coming from the Prometheus exporter that is on the machine, so running on the PowerEdge T640 or any of these virtual machines. So we can look at, for example, the control plane. And we can see how its stats are holding up against the rest of the network. Point being, these are all running from Prometheus node exporters, and I have a Prometheus service, a server that is collecting all of those metrics and making them available for Grafana. And then I actually just found a publicly available dashboard that someone else created that has all of these nice looking charts, and I am able to look at this data and create alarms on this data so we can see this network traffic. Whenever it gets too high, I have it configured to send a message to a matrix chat. This isn't currently working, but it can do that if I fix it. And so I want to add the new server to all of this. Anyway, so that's relevant there. Let's see. These ones on Docker mail server, I don't have an immediate need to do this. So my mail instance is working. I am mostly happy with it. It does tend to deliver my mail to people's spam box, which is not ideal. People will often miss my messages, but this is actually one of the most popular videos I made on YouTube in a very long time. So this one has, most of my recent videos have gotten in the like hundreds of views range, whereas the one I made on Docker mail server for some reason has gotten thousands of views. I'm not really sure why Docker mail server is so popular. But yeah, so it's actually from the content creator perspective, it's tempting to do another one on that subject. And there were also some follow-up questions on that. I think I've improved my setup since then. So, you know, that's kind of tempting, but I'm not going to look at those too much right now. Let's see. Nextcloud Assistant, that's kind of cool. I'll show this to you. I have local AI running on my Kubernetes cluster. I think yesterday I was showing you a virtual machine that had a GPU attached to it, and this Kubernetes service, this pod, is running on that GPU node. So I can use these different AI models to run on the GPU node, and I get pretty good performance. That GPU is kind of small, and in terms of RAM, or VRAM that is, and so the models I have access to are kind of small, but I can add more compute power to that if I want to. And why was I showing you this? Let me close a few of these windows. Yes, Nextcloud Assistant. So Nextcloud is, if you haven't seen it before, I'm actually not going to open it. I think there's something on there. Anyway, it's an AI assistant that can, in the background, connect to local AI. I'll pull it up in another window here so you can see it. There we go. You can see my profile. The reason for me showing you this is this little star up here would allow me to have this interface for connecting to my local AI instance and doing these kinds of tasks. And it doesn't quite work. I haven't gotten it totally functioning just yet. And much like deploying DEX and getting that matrix authentication service configured to utilize it, this is kind of something that only affects me. Unlike most of my other services, this one does not allow anybody to just create an account. I have to enable an account for you on this one, mainly because it allows you to store files. I could potentially reduce the amount of storage that random people signing up would have access to. So, I'm not saying that this is the way it's going to be forever, but at least the way I'm thinking of it right now, I don't necessarily want to offer 8 gigabytes of storage to whoever wants it. That doesn't sound like a great idea. So, this service, at least, is only available for me. And yeah, so solving this issue is another one that kind of only affects me. And local AI, I see, I don't know how useful. Maybe if I had a bigger model, I would be more inclined to use it. It does get kind of loud when the GPU is being cooled by the fans. They spin up quite a lot. I can see it more for projects, personal projects. If the chat was, I've seen live streams where the chat is moving very quickly, and if I were to have a chat moving very quickly, I can see running a local AI model to process that and give some sort of idea of what is going on in the chat. I could see that being a use case for this, but this Nextcloud Assistant really only affects me, so probably not that interesting for not a high priority, I should say. Let's see. Some stuff on the video summary bot. Yeah, that kind of has the same issues with it, with Nextcloud Assistant, in that the AI models that I can run are kind of small, up to 8 gigabytes of VRAM, which is not a whole lot for these language models. And so they're not very good at processing things. I did have some amount of success with this project, in that I was able to basically get it to work. What this does is whenever I do a live stream and record a video, I can take the resulting MP4 and I can take this bot and I can point the bot to the URL of that MP4, and it will download the video, extract the audio, create a transcription using the Whisper AI model, and then it will take that transcription and feed it into a language model that will generate a summary of the video. And it does a decent job. It tends to get semantically what the video is about. It does okay. It doesn't really create anything particularly valuable, though. There are some posts somewhere on my discourse, I think in the Q1 or Q2 demos threads, you'll see some posts where I was working on this, and I actually posted the results of feeding videos through this, and I just didn't feel like that added a whole lot to the content. I don't know. It just maybe if I were running better models, it would be able to, pick up more nuance and do a better job writing something captivating and getting the tone that I'm looking for. But yeah, it needs some work. It needs more compute power, first of all, and then it also needs, as this issue indicates somewhere, compose an effective system prompt. That's probably where I would get the tone that I'm looking for. So telling it that it is, I don't know exactly how to make it sound. So yeah, but anyway, that project is kind of in the background. This one would be kind of useful. So the router that I use is an Edge Router 6P. This gentleman here. And it supposedly has built-in support for OpenVPN. Now, I have set up my own VPN server in the past. I think I did it with Arch Linux, and it's a little bit tedious. You have to set up public key infrastructure, and it's not hard. It's just that there's kind of a lot of steps, and for every single client that you want to be able to connect to your VPN, you need to do some digital signatures and pass those files in between these computers. It's a little bit of a pain, and there are times where this would be extremely useful to me. Anytime I'm away from my apartment, I'm not on my local network, and I'm just running on my trusty laptop here, I am not able to run commands on my underlying Kubernetes cluster. I'm able to access the services as a user, but I'm not able to access the cluster as an administrator. And if I were to complete this, creating the OpenVPN thing, then I would be able to just VPN back into my home network, and I would be able to access the Kubernetes cluster directly from anywhere in the world, which is a super cool thing to be able to do. It's just, I don't need it all that often. So I'm usually around my apartment, and when I am not here, I'm not working on this stuff. So it doesn't come up that much. When I do travel, that's really when I would like it. But it's been, again, one of those things where it affects me more than anybody else. So it's kind of a low priority. That being said, thinking about it from a content creation standpoint, configuring OpenVPN is probably something that people search for. So maybe there's an angle there. Yeah, and see, here's my Ubiquiti Edge router, and I actually configured it manually just by going in and clicking on things, because I bought it and didn't really know exactly how to set it up and trying to learn how to do something while also trying to automate your learning, that kind of doesn't work. So now that I know how to set it up, I would want to automate it to get it to this state, but you know, it's been 8 months since I've done that, so kind of fumbled the ball on this one a bit. But anyway, this one's kind of interesting. Matrix chat on Mindtest. So the Mindtest server, I would like to configure it so that in the background the chat in the game syncs with the element chat that I have, or the Matrix chat room that I've created for offline communications. There's actually a mod that exists for that already, right here, but it has some problems. Mainly this installation process here. So since I am running Kubernetes, I'm using a Helm chart to deploy Luanti, and that Helm chart is using a Docker container. This is a bit of an issue because I need to create a custom Docker container to run this, and these commands don't really work in the one that is provided. I think it's another Bitnami chart, and which A, gives me a thought that I should add more resources to it, and B, it's using Alpine Linux, and Alpine Linux doesn't really like this LuaRox install setup that they're recommending here or requiring here. So I've been unable to do this, and I'm not exactly sure how I would fix it. But that would be a pretty cool feature at some point in the future. Update wiki. Oh, I had kind of forgotten about this feature. KrakenBot's an old project where it algorithmically trades cryptocurrencies on the Kraken network. But what's interesting here is this, the wiki. Adding documentation alongside the code. This is something I have been neglecting and am glad to remember, because it kind of exists alongside Discourse, where I often can create wiki posts. But this is a very different use case, and I'm just glad that I remembered that now. So, neat. I think I skipped a page. I still have not developed a system for regular backups, which is a terrible practice. That one should be a very high priority. Okay, let me take a look at this chat here. I'm not so much that I expect people to be here, but this is exactly what it did last time when it was not working. So I am suspicious. No, I think we're good. Okay. Okay. We're not going to go over all of these. I think, at least for today, this is probably the other one that I would want to talk about because it's kind of interesting. Interplanetary file system. So this is a decentralized way of sharing content, and I suppose it exists in contrast to MinIO on my platform. So I showed this last time, that this is the MinIO server. This is where I upload my videos when they are, when I finish them. I put them on MinIO, and then I embed the link on Discourse or into Gitea somewhere. And MinIO is really good because it's efficient. It is provides fast uploads and fast downloads, so it's nice in that respect. But interplanetary file system is open in that, you know, I would store my content on maybe my own interplanetary file system node. I forget exactly the word they use to describe this. And then anyone who downloads it gets a copy and makes it available for people nearby. So when you go to download my video, you're actually going to download it not necessarily directly from me, though you can. You're going to get it from wherever is the optimal place from which to get it. I don't remember the details of how interplanetary file system works, but it's an interesting protocol by which you can add content to it. It will exist there forever. It's shared and distributed. There are benefits to it. We can look at it another time, I suppose. But it's kind of complicated to self-host an interplanetary file system node, and it's especially complicated to do that in a Kubernetes context. There is a thing that exists for doing this, but it's kind of weird, and I have looked at it before. We can kind of... IPFS cluster. Where's the about? Just like bring me to the home. Yeah, see that right there? It can be a daunting task. Well, anyway, I'm not going to get into the details here, but this is an interesting tool. I like this in principle as a place for which me to... Excuse me. I like the idea as a place for me to store my content. It currently exists only on my servers. My servers are the only place to get it, which is kind of a good thing in some ways, because, you know, you don't have some third party taking, collecting revenue based on my work. Kind of do, even because I upload it to YouTube at the end of the day. But hey, that's not what we're talking about here. Regardless, I like this because it's, you know, it's free and it's just kind of contributing to this open platform with some interesting content. So yeah, anyway, I digress. I suppose we'll end with this one. No, we shouldn't end with that one. That's... Well, okay, yeah, let's actually... That's a totally different direction from where I was thinking of going, but this is interesting nonetheless. Wikideck. Wikideck has been sitting on the shelf for a little bit. I've got it... So we got a server, and it basically works. The basic... To recall, Wikideck is a NFT blockchain that rewards Wikipedia trading cards. Thank you, README. And I have gotten this to the point where the underlying blockchain is functional, and you can validate what's happening on it, and it seems to be somewhat resilient to nefarious techniques. But that's kind of all I have. It's just this basic functioning algorithm, and what I need are a lot of things. We have a basic client as well, though it would be nice to flesh this out more. It would be nice to have like a homepage for this so you can see what's going on a little bit more in terms of what cards have been generated and who is trading them, etc. Yeah, there's a lot to do on this one, but it's been on the shelf for a while. It is... Of all of the projects that I have shown, I think it's the only one that actually has its own discourse category. That's because it's the only one that is really potentially a major project of the platform that is original to the platform. As you can see here, I've had other people submit code to it. I create issues and am, offering to have other people complete these issues. And it's also a original project of the platform, so it has its own discourse category. But ever since I kind of got it going, I kind of just put it on the shelf and had to move apartments and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe I'll pick this back up again in the near future. But anyway, I think that will just about do it for today. We did manage to go through a good number of these issues, albeit in somewhat of a quick fashion. We made 5 contributions here. Look at us. Alrighty. Let me just double check, triple check this chat. I do believe that all worked exactly as I wanted. Yes, it did. Okay, cool. So I am intending to stream more regularly, usually around noon Eastern Standard Time is when I tend to have an opportunity to do so. So yeah, be on the lookout. I'll be doing this more often. Toodles.